about me and you. And I think to myself, what a
Hello,
wonderful
everyone. I'm Ashna,
Hi, I'm Kanaz.
and welcome to our first episode of
Woo!
Spill the Spirituality. Round of applause, please. We're so happy and excited to be here and recording this for
Yes.
you. So welcome. So, who are we? Why are you listening to us? What do we have to say? um, I'm
Why
sitting
don't we
across.
give you a little bit of a intro so you guys understand that we're just a little bit more than the beauties that we are.
So humble.
Very humble. So let me introduce Ashna first. Okay. So Ashna is this very hot, sexy young artist that has just gotten a bit slap from life and has been sent back from New York to India. She had
That's
a
been fun.
very challenging last year, but she really did a very great job. One of the things that makes her special is the fact that she was introduced to spirituality as a young little thing, and she always is asking very poignant questions. And one thing that's unique about her that I noticed was that she never points the finger outwards. She always looks at what can I do about this? How can I bring about a change in my life? So very important thing. So yeah, that's Ashna in a little package for you.
I'm sitting across this little auntie. I'm kidding.
Bitch. Bitch.
No, I'm sitting across the very gorgeous, extra flaming hot Kenas. And like she said, she's also been through a little bit of a challenging rocky year. I think all of us have,
Mm-hmm.
everyone that's listening has been. But I think Kenas is, I think, the one of the wisest people I know. Yeah,
Oh.
I said it. You'll never hear it from me ever again.
Oh.
But she's extremely perceptive, and I think most people, if you meet her the first time, you'll get this kind of like bit streak. You know, she's frank, she says it how it is, but that's what everyone loves about her, and that's what I love about it. And you realize the more you spend time with her, the more you realize where this the things she says and the things she does, they're just coming from her being her authentic self, and she's
Hmm.
completely unapologetic. It's not coming from a place of like being better than others, but just love, like.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about her. She's just herself despite like who she's around. So I'm really honored to be sitting here and recording this with her. All her wisdom is gonna come our way, so just be ready, guys.
Oh, please. And this small correction in my introduction, it's not that I've had a hard year. I've had I wouldn't say a hard life, but I have had a very exciting life
Mm,
filled with
yeah.
bit slaps from from the universe, but only for my good. I
Yeah.
love those bit slaps because
And
it's made me who I am.
we'll be hearing all about them
Hmm.
and how they've led you here,
Yeah,
and what all they've taught you.
definitely. Yeah. So, you know, a little bit what we can kind of do is give you a little bit of a brief as to how did this whole concept of spirituality or spiritualism or whatever you want to call it, because people want to call it 10,000 things, how did it kind of start in our lives? So for me, it started basically when I was a kid because, you know, coming from a slightly religious background, my parents were constantly trying to push religion down my throat, and I always had this rebellious streak, and I used to tell my mother, I'm like, I am God. I don't need to go to the temple to pray or to do anything. I am God. So she used to go completely nuts. She's like, you cannot say that. You are not
Kenas
God.
is quite the troublemaker.
Absolutely.
She
I
still
mean, like,
is. She still is.
yeah, I really don't know how my mother put up with me. So I had this concept constantly that, you know, that we're always going outward to worship God. We're going somewhere or praying to Him outside. And I always had this incessive feeling that there is something within us. I mean, I was obnoxious and I was a child, so I used to say I'm God. But to a certain degree, that is true. We are all little
Yeah.
baby gods, and we will be discovering that in our talks to come, that how is that so? So from that, I kind of like, transitioned into life. I stayed alone since a very young age, so I had to become super aware as a result of just having to, not just survive but thrive. You have to become aware, you have to become smart. So all of that kind of weaved into the larger questions, the deeper questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What's going on? Like half my life I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is going on? And to understand that, yeah, I
Mhm.
always wanted to understand that. And I wanted my relationships to improve, and that also kind of pushed me a little bit towards spirituality, because I had a horrible temper issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
and
there.
yeah, and it would manifest itself in I could lash out, I could shout, scream, do all of those things, which in turn at the end of the day did not only just destroy my
Yeah,
relationships and
didn't
put
help
stress on
anyone.
them, but yeah, it didn't help me either. So all of those things kind of slowly pushed me into seeking more, seeking more, seeking more. And then 7 years ago I met my guru, Dada Shriji, and from there onwards I got proper guidance. And I
Yeah,
got proper guidance from someone who did not want to change me, just accepted me for who I was and I am
that's
this day
really
too.
important.
Very, very important. And so, yeah, it just kind of like springboarded from there.
And we're here now.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's very different. I was super lucky because I was
Mm-hmm.
literally I was literally just handed spirituality in a platter.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's I acknowledge how lucky I am, okay? Um,
Spoiled.
but yeah, my mom was always a very spiritual person. So ever since I was young, I've been brought up with spiritual values. So that was never strange to me. It was always a part of me.
Mm.
And then when I was around the age of 13, she started making me meditate. I never enjoyed meditating. I still kind of don't. But so slowly, I started to get more into it. And then my mom was introduced to the same guide, Dada Shiji, that you just mentioned. And I remember she was taking me to meet him. Uh, and I was like so ready. I was like, oh man, it's gonna be another like old white bearded dude, and I'm gonna have to go and sit and like meditate for like another hour or something. It's gonna be so annoying. But I remember I walked in and it was just this like normal looking dude,
Mhm.
just spitting facts. And that's when like my whole understanding of it completely changed. Um, and that's when I think the path of spirituality started for me, like as a path of my own, instead of something that my mom was teaching me. And
Yeah,
it's been life changing. It's been amazing, and
absolutely.
I'm so glad to be here. So that's why we really wanted to do this, was because we've seen what a massive and amazing impact it's had on our life. Sometimes really fucking shitty, but
Yeah.
it's still fun. We still enjoy it. So we just wanted to share that with you about how spirituality sometimes is considered this huge abstract thing that's so far away from you, that's so hard to
Yeah, on
understand and
some
so
pedestal.
hard
Yeah.
to practice. But we just
Yeah.
wanted to actually bring it into your everyday life and just show you that it's actually just a part of all our lives, whether we know it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's air. You can't see it, but it's there, and you
It's
breathe
there.
it in and breathe it out. And that's what spirituality is. And one of the most important things that we want to kind of bring to our audience is it's actually simple. It's
So simple.
very, very simple. I don't know why we humans have this tendency to overcomplicate things. I think we think it's more intelligent when it is complicated and you're going to
Hmm.
decipher, or very few people know about it. But spirituality is actually extremely simple, and it is for
Everyone.
everyone. And that is what is so special about it, that everyone is included, not just a small group, or older people, or certain age or certain background. It has no discrimination.
Yeah.
It's like full for participation. So
Yeah.
since we're talking so much about spirituality and what it is and how we came about it,
Was
first and foremost we want to kind of bring to light as to why is this dialogue on so much. Everywhere you see, there is, I feel there is a spiritual renaissance happening. Like
hmm
humanity is shifting. Like, I know you don't know 20 years ago what was going on. You were probably still in liquid form, but
Okay.
nobody was talking about spirituality, right? this dialogue is, I think, very dominantly coming to the forefront since the last probably 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, really coming up in every dialogue, all the platforms you see,
I
whether
agree.
it's social media platforms or just even socially when you go out, people are starting to ask these questions. Yeah. And I think that us as humanity, vibrationally, collectively, we are shifting. And this is happening whether you are on board or not. So I suggest,
I think it's
just
time to
keep
get
your-
on board.
yeah, it's time to get on board, because the alternative is like you're going to get your ass kicked, and
Yeah.
you don't want that. So
But
let's just kind
I
of
agree. Like
yeah.
what you just said, I feel like even if I look around my friends, and every time I open
Mhm.
social media, there has been a massive shift of things that we've been talking about, like from talking about things outwards to it's now moved into more positive thinking, thinking
Yeah.
about your emotions, checking yourself, taking care of yourself. So the dialogue everywhere, I feel like has shifted. And I think
Yeah.
that's happening, like you said, because there's like a shift happening in this universe. But also, I feel like people have finally realized that they were all kind of seeking something, you don't,
Yeah.
but, and no one knew exactly what it was, whether it was like friends or money or whatever, but
No, but it
somewhere
was
that
always
wasn't,
outward.
yeah, but it wasn't satisfying anyone. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So now
Yeah.
people are realizing that, and people are starting to realize that the answer is inwards, not
Mhm.
outwards.
Yes.
So I think that whole thing is happening. I'm so glad it's happening. It's so nice to see. And
Yeah, it's amazing to be a part of it. All of us are going through this together, whether you live in Japan or you live across the world in Hawaii, whether you live in
yeah,
North Pole or South Pole, we're going through it.
we're all going through it.
And we're going through it together, whether we
Yeah.
know it or not, whether we feel it or not,
We're
because we are
all in this
connected.
together.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like I think we already like spirituality, man. Every time I feel like I talk to anyone about this,
Mhm.
I I get sometimes the strangest reactions. Like I have a whole spectrum of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just don't understand what it is. Like you mentioned before, also, people just have these like misconceptions of
Yeah.
spirituality.
Yeah.
So let's talk about
Yeah. Let's talk about the misconceptions.
what is spirituality not? Like before we get into more about
Yeah.
it, what is it
Yeah.
not? Like what is
Yeah.
some misconceptions that we have?
So, one of the things that a lot of people say spirituality is about abandoning the material world and going off somewhere in the mountains,
Yeah.
abstaining from sex, abstaining from like material pursuits, not really having an ambition to do something for
Yeah.
yourself, perhaps, uh, lighting incense and just chanting or
Crystals
doing
and
crystals and
meditating 24
chakras.
hours. Yeah.
And
I
all
actually,
of that kind of stuff.
a couple months ago, I actually posted like this like poll on my
Mhm.
Instagram, and I asked people what they think spirituality is, and I got a lot of I had so many people were like, oh, it's like communicating with the spirit world and spirits and all of that. But and so often when I tell people that, oh, right, spirituality is a big part of my life, or this, I'm going for a spiritual session or something like that, they're like, oh, yoga? Are you going to do yoga? You're doing yoga.
Yeah.
Or they're like,
Yeah.
okay, you're just meditating constantly. These are all misconceptions. It's not one thing or the other. And I think another misconception people think is people think you're just supposed to always be peaceful.
Yeah. The misconception about the misconception about how is a spiritual person or a person who's on this path. Please proceed. I wanted to make that very clear to people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because sometimes, I mean, I'm a loud person. Okay. But like I've actually had it, like if I'm angry at someone and people will find me screaming like, oh, don't you like sit and meditate? Like, aren't you like super
Yeah.
spiritual? Like, how can you be saying these
Yeah.
things, or how can you be acting this way? Like,
Yeah.
you are allowed to feel everything and be exactly who you are if you're on the spiritual path. You don't have to be this
Absolutely.
like saint nun like person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of misconceptions, and we're just here to pop those bubbles.
Yeah. And the other misconception is that if you are on this path, you will look a certain way. you will dress a certain way. That's not true.
Not at all.
You know, I'll be covered in doing a session in the ashram, or then, you know, next weekend I
Next,
have a
we're
backless
like,
dress on
yeah,
and I'm at some party, and both are part of my world and they can coexist very peacefully
yeah,
and actually quite beautifully, you know, if you
yeah.
allow it to happen.
I've had
And
this one time I clearly remember. I was at this party and I was at actually just like a small scene at a friend's place, and I was like, it was like 4 a.m. and I was like, okay, guys, I need to get home. I need to get home right now. They were like, why? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You don't understand. I have to sit for a meditation session at 6 a.m. Let me go home. So like, you can do both, you know.
you can do
There's
both.
no either or.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
you can do all of it. So, and I think I've learned that. I used to also, when I first started out on like this, and I would mostly just see people like 4 times my age, and
Mhm.
I feel like I also kind of modified myself, and I was trying to be that, you know, like sweet little
Oh,
girl.
oh, please.
But oh, shut up. But the more I realized, like, yeah, I'm this is me. This is just how it
Yeah.
is. I don't need to adapt to any kind of box.
Yeah.
Um,
So, you
have you
know,
heard of
this,
any other like? Can you
yeah,
think of
so
any other
yeah, I
misconceptions?
can. You know, recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. I was hanging out with her whole day because, you know, I just needed to spend some time with her. And we were just talking, and she was talking a lot that day. And she was telling me about how she's making a lot of changes in her life, in her personal relationship. She had started therapy, etc. And she was on this path where she said that she really wanted to improve the quality of her life, etc., etc. And that very curiously, she brought up the fact that she told me, she's like, Kenny, I cannot be spiritual like you. You know, that has not started for me yet, and I'm hoping that will start for me at some point in time. And I was quite surprised at her, and I told her, I said, babe, I mean, like, if you are not spiritual, I don't know who is, because
Yeah.
all you're doing is you're working on yourself, whether it is on your relationship, on your career, on your family life, or your relationship with your parents, and you're seeking professional help. So there's multiple tools out there. Basically, what spirituality is all about is growth. It's about,
Yeah.
you know, pursuing life and trying to be your best at it. And
That
all these
story.
different things are tools. The
Mhm.
different tools that are out
I
there can
agree.
help you.
That story also actually brings me to like a very like important point, is that spirituality is all about freedom. It's not to
Yes.
like bind you that, you know, you're supposed to be this and you're supposed to be practicing this, or like someone's like this, so this is how the spiritual life is following spirituality is like. It's
Yeah.
actually just, it's spirituality just frees you. It lets you be exactly who you are, and it doesn't
Yes.
expect you to be sitting and meditating for 4 hours a day, or like doing yoga every day, or doing havans, or like, you know, collecting crystals or anything like that, which
Yeah.
people do, and those are tools, like you said, those are
That's
tools.
fine. You can do it.
But
Yeah.
the most important thing about spirituality is freedom to be yourself.
Yes.
And I think another, like one of the main things spirituality to me is moving inwards, you know, like talked about the how people have started looking inwards. For me,
Hmm.
spirituality is just that journey inwards, from focusing on outside and all the shit that's happening outside,
Yes.
um whether it's your friends or your relationships or your boyfriend and your husband and all of that shit,
Hmm.
to actually looking inside and figuring out who you truly are, what you are truly feeling, how you can grow, how
Yeah.
you can handle a situation. So it's all about us. It's all
Yes.
about us. So it's just that journey inwards,
Yeah.
which is what I feel like. And through that journey inwards, we start to grow. So that's another, like you said, it's all about growth.
It's all about growth. Yeah. And this freedom, this is something that, you know, I want all of you guys to know, whatever path you walk on, whatever tools you use. If anybody ever tries to put you in a ticky tacky box and tries to say this is what it is, that's
Tell
your
them to fuck
first
off.
clue to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Because, you know, nobody who is on this path, or any guide will, that's a genuine guide, will ever tell you that. They will always know and see and understand that different things work for different people, as long as
Mhm.
the destination is the same. Some paths might be more accessible, some might be more inaccessible, some might work for you, not work for you, whatever that is. But please, please, please remember that it's all about growth and freedom.
Yes. So yeah, like at the end of the day, spirituality is just life. It's a part of everyone's life. We're all living spiritual lives.
Why,
Um,
Ashna?
oh,
Why are we all living spiritual lives? How is that? Explain to me.
okay. Let's get into it. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
What are we doing at like every step of our life, every age of our life, every literal
Mhm.
moment? We're in some way we're all growing, right? We're all learning, whether it's like from the age of 1 when you touch something hot and you realize like, oh shit, that hurt, I'm not going to touch this again, to
Yeah.
like when you move on to school and you realize that, okay, if I drop this stain on my t-shirt, my mom's going to come back home and scold me. So I need to
Yeah.
be more careful, to like when you come to high school, every single moment something or the other is teaching you something, and so you're growing, even if it's like the smallest thing. So I
Yes.
feel like life is all about growing, all about
Yes.
learning, all about progressing little by little, whether it's in your jobs or in your career or personally or relationships. It's all about growth. It's all about
Yes.
leveling up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and like we said, that's what spirituality is too, right? It's about growth.
Yeah.
So we're all actually just living spiritual lives. What do you think,
Yeah.
Manas?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a certain expectation that when we are on this spiritual journey or when we are living our lives, okay, that everything is supposed to be even keel and zen. It's not really like that. If you
Mm-mm.
look at the one fundamental thing us humans enjoy the most, which is what, Ashna?
She really wants you to say it.
What is good
Sex.
sex? Okay, if you even take a simple example of sex, right? If there's no friction, there's no pleasure. Okay,
Mm.
imagine sex without friction. Ew,
What
no.
is that? What is that?
What is that exactly? That's not sex. So our nature, our fundamental nature is that friction's required. This
Mhm.
life is all about that, to
Yeah,
experience one, you need to experience the other. Duality is what we are living
you
in.
need
And
friction to have some fun.
exactly, you need to have some fun, you need to have some friction, both
Yeah,
ways. So think of it like that even life, we require friction in order for any sort of growth to happen. There has to be a small ouchie.
yeah,
Now if you
or
turn
big
that
one
or a
sometimes.
big one, yeah, and if you don't pay attention to the small ouchie, it becomes a
It's
big
gonna be a
ouchie.
big one. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's up to you, right? So that's what I fundamentally
yeah.
feel, that this expectation of having something that is very flat, it's not life. Life is all about ups and
I'm.
downs, ups and downs.
If you think about it, if there was only like if there was only good in the world,
Yeah.
would the good even seem good? Like,
No, it
yeah,
wouldn't be good.
it
I
wouldn't
don't
be
know what it
good.
would be.
It would
Yeah,
just
it
be
wouldn't be
bland.
good.
It would be
Yeah.
bland as hell. So
Yeah.
you need, like I said, you need friction to have some fun. So you need the good,
Mhm.
you need the bad to highlight the good. That's the whole
Yes.
point. And I think
Yes.
again, that's been another huge realization I've had ever since I started on the my spiritual path. That was the first thing I think I saw in myself, was that this perspective change, that the shit that was happening in my life was
Yeah.
not so shit. Like, it was shit, but I enjoyed it because there was a reason it was happening.
Yeah,
It
because you
highlighted all
changed
the
the
good.
angle you were
Yeah,
looking at it
yeah,
from.
exactly. So
Yeah.
the shit became not so shit, and that's what it's all about, because shit's gonna keep happening. I'm
Of
saying shit a
course.
lot. But it's just that's what spirituality helps you do. It helps you switch that angle and realize that you need it to have some fun, and then life
Yeah.
becomes fun. Imagine like playing a video game and all you're doing in that video game is just walking, 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 walking. That's no fun.
Yeah.
You
I'm
need
gonna
like
bust some heads and take out some machine guns and destroy some shit.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you need the challenge. You need the
Yes, you definitely need
struggle.
this challenge. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. My husband's been trying to convince me for many, many years that this whole thing is just the Matrix. It's just a
We're stuck in
game.
the matrix.
Just play. It's the
Just
Matrix.
enjoy it. Just
Yeah.
enjoy it.
So, we want you to kind of get used to certain things. For example, okay, when we're talking about spirituality, many people call it many different things. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's just get that out of the way. So you're not all hung up on, oh, she said God and she said
Like, ew,
universe
I'm
and
not
she said
listening to
that.
this again. I don't
Yeah.
believe in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Relax. Okay. So spirituality, what do we mean? Okay, so when we are trying to refer to it, it could be somebody who comes from a religious background. They might call it God. Some people might call it universal energy. Some people might call it collective consciousness. Some people might refer it to as
Nature, love, light, nothing. People don't believe in anything. People say
atheists are fine
divine, people say
also.
energy.
Yeah,
It's everything. It's whatever you want it to be. Call it what you
yeah,
want. It's all the same thing
yeah.
at the end of the day. So
Exactly. It
mhm.
doesn't matter. And if you're an atheist, you probably believe you're a God, just as I used to when I was a kid. So all
it
G,
all
no
works.
worries. It all works. Okay.
Yeah,
So don't get bogged down with the names and the title. That's just the limitation of language. All
that's just
right.
our head limiting us. Remember, freedom.
Absolutely.
Don't let anything limit you.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that I'm a little meow about, you know, I'm always telling
So she's
Ashna,
always bitching at me.
I'm not always bitching at you. I'm just bringing it to your attention how lucky you are. Okay. Because I'll be very honest, for me, this path has been so much about unlearning
Mhm.
because I have learned so much nonsense. I've picked it up, I have made it my own. It has become a part of my character, my personality, everything. So the last, I would say, easily probably 10-15 years, I've had to unlearn my bullshit.
Mhm.
And that is difficult because when you are unlearning, it's got to break you before it makes you
Yeah.
again. So it's painful. And that's why I talk about ouchies, because
Oh,
there
you
are a
poor
lot of ouchies. Okay.
thing.
Yeah, shut up. Okay. So when you learn something young, you know, it's like you're half empty. Whatever is going in is good. So you
Mhm.
don't need to like regurgitate all of that and throw out what is not
Yeah.
working for you and then relearn something else.
Mhm.
So if you start, you know, becoming aware of all of these things at a slightly younger age, you are set in your 20s. You will be focused, you'll be happy. You know, in 30s you will rule it. And then when
Ooh,
you
I'm
are, you know,
ready.
skidding
I'm ready.
towards when you're skidding towards 40 like I am, you won't be still scratching your head and wondering like, oh, life is a big ouchie. So you
Yeah.
know, if you're young, that's the time to get in it. That's what my thing is. Please, please,
Yeah.
please, all you teenagers, adolescent, people in the
Look at
early
her being
20s.
preachy.
No, not at all. Please, I request you, do yourself a fucking favor and, you know, get into this thing before you get it slaps from
Just
life
bits
like I
last.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. She keeps me in check.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I am on this journey. Like she said, I'm so glad I got into it early, and I'm so glad I'm getting to share this with you guys now. So
Yeah.
yeah, we went into a lot today. Like we kind of all over the place, but at the end of the day, it just boils down to what the fuck even is spirituality. It's about you growing. It's about you
Yes.
being a good person and you just moving inwards, and they all tie in
Yes.
together. So just focus on that. Just focus on yourself. Focus on being a good person, looking
Mhm.
inwards, and just growing in each moment of life. And that's what I've been doing, and it's helped me immensely. And sometimes it's hard as hell, uh, but I'm hanging in there. Well, I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what we got to do. What our part is to hang in there and just take the next step forward. Take the next
Yeah.
step forward.
I'm trying.
And
We're trying.
you guys take the next step forward by joining us next week. You want to kind of know what it's about. Can we tell them a little bit what it's about?
Mm.
What is
So
it
what did we
about?
say? It all begins and ends with you. So
Hmm.
we're gonna be talking about the most important thing that there is.
The
You.
only thing that
The
matters.
only thing that matters. You.
You. Okay. So see you. Tune in next week. It's all about you. Remember. Bye.
Bye.